Hello, welcome to our session on student surveys. Today we'll be talking about how to use student survey data to inform decisions at various levels. My name is Ryan Balch and I work with My Student Survey, organization that does student survey administration and provides teacher feedback reports. So I wanted to focus today on a couple different topics. The first one, I want to give some background on student surveys. Next, I want to talk about how you can use classroom level student survey data to really support principals in improving practice. And then finally, I'm going to talk about how to use student survey to make district level decisions. So there's a why of student surveys that I think is important to start off with. First, students have the most contact with teachers, and really they're the direct consumer of both teachers as well as the school service. They offer meaningful and actionable feedback, so it's really tangible pieces that can help them grow professionally. And it also serves as a way of empowering students to be able to give them a voice and engage them in their education experience. So today we're going to talk about what types of student surveys, and it's first to start helpful to start off with what types of level we're talking about. So you can either have surveys that happen at the classroom level, and I'll talk about an example in a second that we offer. You can have them at the school level. You can also have the district level. District levels are often challenging because most students aren't aware of things that a district might or may not do. You can do some of them, but often you'll be able to use aggregated data, so put together all the classroom data or put together all the school level data. The STEP survey, the one I mentioned, this is a classroom level survey. So it's designed to measure the frequency of instructional practice. And so I want to give you some examples so we're on the same page about it. So some examples might be my teacher shows us example of student work. Might be my teacher asks a question and gives us a few seconds to think before calling on students. So it's very specific to an individual teacher, so it's classroom level data. For all levels, one of the pieces that we found to be really helpful and one of the ways that we try to support districts is that we work and provide technical assistance for developing your own survey. So we walk people through a validation framework. And the reason why we do this is because transparency is one of the best ways to build engagement and buy-in with stakeholders. And so that is a major piece of the validation framework is being able to do interviews with teachers or stakeholders about the survey you're developing. The next piece I want to talk about is how to use classroom level student survey data to support principals in improving their practice. Um, I want to give you a chance on your own, and if you like to, you can pause this and go through the example of the teacher feedback report that we have. And what this does is it allows conversation to happen between the teacher and the instructional leader. Some features to note and some structures that we have in place to allow for this discussion are we have areas of strength and areas of focus within each of the categories. We have a next step and action planning template that you can click on, as well as a video library. You can also, at the school level, you can have principals match teachers up that scored well on a certain item and have them go do targeted observations. There's also an ability to track over time. You have a demo login and password for you to check out, but this is one of the ways you can display data from the classroom for principals so they can see the results for all their teachers and have some of these tools available. So when we talk about using your student survey feedback reports, there's two different ways we could use those. The first one is there's school levels areas of focus that you'll notice within the report. So these might be able to help people in terms of trying to think of, is this my area of focus, be able to have teachers that do really well at this speak at upcoming faculty meetings and so forth. And also having the principal think about what resources could assist teachers with practice in that area. The other thing I want to talk about are some of the professional development options that can come from the reports. It's happened at two different levels. The first one is the school areas of focus we mentioned. But for professional development, you can either have it where the principal has an individual coaching conversation and goal setting session with the teacher using the report. They can come up with next steps and goals and those types of things to be able to use that data to inform practice. The second option is principals can host school-wide PD sessions. And in this, you're able to bring teachers together, do a sharing of best practice, and go over data together. And we have several different templates and ideas that we can walk people through on those. Next piece, we want to think about how we use survey data to make district level decisions. And there's two pieces I want to go over this. The first one is how to collect the data and some thoughts about when you collect it. And then finally, the type of decisions that you can make with it. So it's important to think about the data, what you're going to use it for prior to administering a student survey. First one is where am I trying to make a decision? Do I want teachers to change their action? So I need a classroom level survey. Do I want schools to think about their climate or make decisions in that? Do I want a school level survey, or is this a district question? And therefore I need to ask questions directed to the district. So I need to think about what decision am I trying to make and where do I need to gather the data. Second thing, there obviously survey fatigue is a factor in a lot of places, and so trying to add on a couple questions or work within an existing survey that you might be able to put some additional questions into. And then finally, what are the types of decisions I'm going to use this for? What am I going to do with this information? It really does shape both this content of the questions as well as who you address and so forth. I'm going to go over a couple of those. So I'm going to start with the classroom level survey. So besides the teacher feedback reports that you saw earlier, there's also you can analyze decisions made by principals. So this could be for human capital, whether you can look through their hiring decisions, targeted PD for that school or the teacher. You can really use student surveys as a way of calibrating and complementing observational evaluations. If you see that students are reporting very differently than principals on a consistent basis, that may provide an opportunity for a conversation. You can think about staffing or assignment, tenure and talent identification. It's an additional data point that you can use to look at decisions made by principals and have another source for evaluating those. The second piece is that you could use it for nomination for special programs. So it might be model or mentor teachers, teacher of the year. These are the types of information you need data points on whether they're an effective teacher, and this can serve as an additional data point. The next piece is for thinking about a school level survey. So if you're administering, say, a climate survey where students will answer questions about the school as a whole, it may be helpful to think about where is there some strong or poor climate, where are the parts we want to start with some pilot programs for climate programs. Second is PD guidance for principals based on the students or staff survey. So if you're hearing staff within the school report a certain thing, or if based on student survey you're seeing climate deficiencies or strengths in certain areas, be able to use that data to help principals. You could also use it as an additional data point. Principals use that to inform their goals or measure their progress on those goals within, say, school performance plans, school progress plans, or whatever the language is in your district. And then finally, just as an additional metric of school quality, this could either be for accountability purposes or development purposes. For district level, so you could do some things where you're asking about questions about district climate or specific initiatives, say a school choice program, that type of thing. Often people tend to rely more on an aggregation of this data. So I want to see an outcome measure of teaching. I want to know, is this program on student motivation working? And I'm going to use this as an outcome measure for it. The other piece you could use it for is a consistent measure of district progress. So you're seeing a baseline of our overall student satisfaction rate is X, and we're going to use that as a progress alongside achievement and others in order to be able to measure our progress towards whatever goals we're setting around some of that data. And then also thinking about what instructional practices offer. So it might be we want to set our PD agenda for this year, and we see that there are certain deficiencies on these practices. Some structures that are really helpful to have in place. For classroom data, it's helpful to have the established norms for using this type of data for developmental conversations. This isn't always easy. It doesn't happen right away. And it could be that we're not doing that right now. We need some training in place for principals and instructional leaders to be able to have these conversations to drive practice. Second is thinking about goal setting process with scheduled follow-ups during the year. So where's a structure that teachers can set a goal and then check in on them, close the loop later. For school level data, we have support structures for principals to develop action plans. So it might maybe working with an instructional leader or a principal supervisor. And then district level data, we want to have decisions that actually can be influenced by survey data. There's something to do with it. And then the results of that, we want to communicate those, so having those structures in place. If you have any questions, please contact